Have you ever looked at Facebook and seen a bunch of your friends out together, enjoying a meal or a drink, and thought, I wish I'd known about that? Have you ever heard after the fact that one of your favourite singers was performing just up the road from your house, or that your favourite actor was in a play at your local theatre and thought, I wish someone had told me about that? If you've experienced that emotion, that disappointment of missing out, then you'll have some understanding of how large swathes of the UK demolition and construction industry must feel on a daily basis. Because one way or another, those working in this sector are often blissfully unaware of what's happening right on their very doorstep. Let's go back to the days before the removal of grandfather rights on CSCS cards. Now, I'm a professional industry watcher, but I heard about it, and it's a potentially massive decision. I heard about it almost by accident when I spotted a post about it on LinkedIn. When I raised it, I heard from dozens of men who were about to be impacted, but had only heard about it when I spoke about it online. At one point, it was suggested that potentially thousands of working men and women were totally unaware of a change that was about to effectively rob them of their right to work. That change had been flagged up several years before, and the CSCS did host a webinar about it. But is your average construction worker hanging on the CSCS at every word? Are construction workers really the webinar type? Those at the top of the industry may well have been aware of the change, but it seems they did a less than perfect job of communicating it down the line. And that is not an isolated incident. When the die was cast on the removal of the red diesel rebate, a handful of trade associations took up the fight with varying degrees of passion and commitment. While their efforts to block this potentially damaging decision ultimately failed, I'd like to think that those trade associations took the time to inform their members about the cost juggernaut that was hurtling towards them. But what about the individuals and the companies that aren't affiliated with a trade association? What about the industry professionals who are too busy running their own business to read magazines, websites, and blogs, or to visit YouTube? In all likelihood, the loss of the red diesel rebate landed with a jump scare ripped straight from a low budget horror movie. On a more positive note, the UK demolition industry stands on the precipice of an upsurge in workload, removing the large panel system buildings that have fallen foul of the Building Safety Act and now require expensive retrofitting, refurbishment, or total demolition. Now, I've written a publication about that together with a series of articles, and the feedback in each instance has been telling. Most UK demolition contractors had no idea that they might be about to receive a much needed workload windfall. However, that Building Safety Act could prove to be a double edged sword for the UK demolition fraternity. For while it giveth with one hand, it could taketh away with the other. The Building Safety Act was actually introduced in the aftermath of the Grenfell Tower back in June 2017 to overhaul the UK's approach to building safety and to address systemic failures and flaws in the older building regulations from 2010. The Act introduces a more rigorous and comprehensive framework for the safety of buildings. Now, if you're in demolition, you're probably thinking it's called the Building Safety Act. It's about building. I don't care. But you should care because the BSA, Building Safety Act, mandates a shift in responsibility, oversight, and risk management across the entire built environment. The boundaries between demolition and construction and building safety are now blurred. The demolition sector must now operate within this new ecosystem where building safety and demolition are intrinsically linked. Now, that's worrying in itself. More worrying still is that it seems that the vast majority of the UK's demolition contractors have no idea whatsoever that the goalpost just shifted. Now, as someone who operates in the field of information dissemination, I find it disappointing but not surprising. I see the stats on my email newsletter, my daily live stream, my website, my various social media channels. And while my output goes out to hundreds of thousands of people, the number that actually take the time to open it and read it significantly smaller, which kind of begs a different question, or two questions, in fact. The first question is this. We now live in an age in which communication has never been easier or quicker, an age in which information has never been more readily accessible. So, how is it that the messages aren't getting through? And the second question, and I hate to sound like a cynic, is this. Is it possible that it works in the favour of the regulatory bodies if a part of the market remains blissfully ignorant? If an employee only discovers the loss of grandfather rights when he arrives for work, his first response is probably to fork over the cash to renew his card. If the government had publicised the end of the red diesel rebate more widely, might they have faced a greater opposition? If contractors are unaware of a health and safety executive clampdown on a specific hazard, doesn't that help replenish the HSE coffers? And if a few companies should fall foul of the Building Safety Act goalpost shift, wouldn't the regulators quietly enjoy levying fines and bagging a few scapegoats? As much as I would like to think that the entire industry is hanging on my every word, I've long since resigned myself to the fact that this isn't the case. And to be honest, if a few people miss a few of my articles, it's not a big deal. But if they miss a shift in legislation, it might cost them dearly. Or is that the idea?